Welcome all to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course hearing about how awesome snow camping is in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host today, Tyler, and sitting here next to me in the lovely Snail Trail recording studio is the one and only Mr. Loomis Basin Brewing Co., Jimmy Jett. Mr. Jimmy Jett, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Thanks. Yeah. I'm always been a fan of their beer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's they make a really good Alohawk beer,
Alohawk.
which is a parody or a clone or a twin of Eye the Hawk.
Eye of the Hawk. Is that another beer?
Yeah, Mendocino, I think, makes Eye of the Hawk, and they make Alohawk.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're both good beers.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How often do you go to the Loomis Basin?
Not enough.
Not enough?
Yeah. I've actually cut down a bunch on drinking, actually, overall, and especially beer. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You don't know why? Yeah, it sounds like a health problem if you're not. So, anyways, how you been? You been good?
Yeah, life is good. I had a good time this weekend. I went to a bonsai show. I showed off some trees and got to hang out at the Buddhist temple all weekend and see. It's kind of a reunion of a lot of local people show up, and I get to see some old faces that I haven't seen I see them like once a year. Usually at the event.
Do you guys have contests to see who can kill their trees the most?
No, it's not something we try to do, though. It's probably a good year if I make it through and I only have one tree die. So,
nice.
Yeah. But I collect more than one a year, so it's usually I'm on the positive side.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Keep your trees in the black.
Yes.
With Mr. Black.
There you
go. So cool. Just want to give a quick shout out and a thank you to everybody out there, all the listeners, all the watchers, all the subscribers. Really because of you guys and from running into you guys out on the trails in person and hearing from your feedback through emails, through the Instagram, the Facebook, the DMs, the private messages, everything that, we get a bunch of feedback from you guys, and it's awesome. I love reading through all the feedback. I love responding to you guys and hearing some of the inside jokes and some of the funny stuff that you guys are up to out there as well. And because of you guys and all the feedback that we do get, it makes this all worthwhile. There's a lot of time put into the post-production, pre-production, and the making the content and finding more content to do. It's a lot of time commitment, but it's totally worth it.
Totally.
So
it's an absolute ball to be able to do this for everybody. And I mean, we definitely have to do a huge shout out to our patrons.
Yes.
Thanks so much for actually supporting us and helping us along in this adventure. And we try to give back to you guys as much as possible. And this week we're doing the Tailgater Tire Table.
Yay!
Get it?
You got
Tailgater Tire Table. That is the giveaway this month. So if you want to know more, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/SnailTrail4x4. And there'll be a bunch of information there for you. And our boxes are going out.
Boxes are... They're one or the other. I don't know if you're watching this video, they're either going out today or the next day.
Yeah.
So within a couple days of when this video releases, the gift boxes are going out. So that means that the gift box tier is also now open.
Yes.
So if you want to get in on the next gift box we do, make sure you go to the Patreon page and upgrade or sign up for that the gift box tier there. So you can upgrade your donation to the gift box tier if you want to get on that. But we will be announcing what is in the boxes, and we will show you guys everything on a video probably 1 week from today, October, was that 14th?
14th-ish.
14th-ish, whenever the next campfire discussion video airs. We'll show you guys everything that was in one of those boxes. Yeah. So you get an idea, and you can decide whether you want to sign up or not for the next one. So I think that's all. Yep. Is there more?
No, let's get into it.
Very cool. Share this with all your buddies. Tell all your friends about it. If you like the podcast, tell your buddies. If you don't like it, tell your buddies. We like all feedback, negative and positive. So, and if it's negative, we will most likely just I don't know, delete your email and not pay attention to it anyways. So.
I'll forward it to Tyler.
There we go. And with that, my friends, go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right on back with today's campfire discussion. Welcome back, ladies, gents, and kiddos. Sorry, Jimmy's making me laugh while we're trying to come back into the show here. Yeah, so welcome back, everybody. Today's campfire discussion, as everybody knows, we spent, or if you listened to the past 4 or 5 episodes, we spent 7 days and built the 2nd Gen 4Runner.
Yeah.
In a matter of 7 days. So we did all this stuff to it. We did the front axle, rear axle, drive shafts, T-case, twin stick mod on a couple of T-cases.
Redid some of the steering.
Redid some of the steering. Put a new onboard air system in it. Hooked up all the air lockers.
Electrical.
Did a whole new electrical switch panel in there. And there's probably more that I'm forgetting, but we did a lot. And so we did it all in 7 days. It was a little hectic, a little crazy. And I finally got to it was very quickly after we finished.
Yeah.
I got to take the 2nd Gen 4Runner out on my favorite trail, Barrett Lake, to do a shakedown run on it, which is kind of funny to say that you're going to do a shakedown run on Barrett Lake.
Yeah.
But
a shakedown run, I would figure, would be like a fire road.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something. And we decided to go straight in and head first into a fairly difficult trail for sure.
Yeah. So those who don't know Barrett Lake Trail, there's essentially 3 trails in Northern California that are difficult trails, difficult ratings. There's Fordyce, which is probably the most difficult trail in Northern California. There's Rubicon, which is arguably the 2nd most difficult trail in Northern California, but arguably the most scenic trail in Northern California. And then there's Barrett Lake, which in my opinion, for the most part, I think Barrett Lake has bigger obstacles than the Rubicon, at least for the forced way. Like if you had to go through the Rubicon in the easiest way possible, Barrett Lake is harder.
Okay, so if you don't do any of the bypasses on the Rubicon,
then the Rubicon would be harder. So you're taking Old Sluice and Big Sluice and everything. Cadillac Hill it's just
there's no real bypass around Big Sluice.
True, but you can go, and I'm talking.
You can squeeze between the tree and a rock, and it's not that. Yeah. So,
but yeah, in my opinion, I think the obstacles on Barrett Lake are just as difficult, if not more difficult, than Big Sluice in the Rubicon.
Okay. I don't know if I agree. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Big Sluice. I'm trying to think, because I think Gatekeeper isn't terribly difficult.
No.
I mean, you just point and shoot and try not to hit the tree.
Yeah.
And the S-turn is really the hardest part. And if you're doing the S-turn, it's not terribly difficult.
Not terribly difficult. I had some issues with it this time.
Okay.
And we'll get into that. But I'm more concerned with around the S-turn. Like that S-turn itself is not too bad. You just have to take it like Austin Powers.
Yeah.
But the little rock garden leading up to it and the rock garden after it is pretty interesting.
Okay.
So there's the big diff ledge that is right before the rock garden.
Yeah.
So that's a really tight turn with a big diff ledge, and you either have to go up 2 big rocks on the passenger side.
Right, and that's the way I usually go.
And I usually go that way too. Or you have to make this really go high driver's side and make a really tight turn before hitting a tree to get up without hitting your dragging your diff and catching it. So, but I think that Rubicon is rated higher difficulty because it's so long. If you break down on the Rubicon, it's going to be a long time to get your rig out of there or to get in to get it repaired or walk out to get parts or anything. So Barrett Lake, one of the top 3 difficult trails in Northern California. My favorite, it ends at this gorgeous lake, picturesque. And
what's the lake's name?
Wright, actually. No, it's past Wright's Lake. So it's Barrett Lake that you end up at. Yeah, it's just a really fun trail. It's 6 miles long. And like I said, there's 3 difficult sections to it, and then everything else kind of in between is nice and relaxing. You can.
So, what's the 3rd difficult section? Because we talked about the Gatekeeper and the S-turn.
The 3rd section is right before the lake. It's like
there's kind of a
1/10 of a mile before the lake.
Sort of an off-camber ledge.
It's like an off camber
and then the rocky section.
Yeah, off camber flex out ledge.
Yeah.
So you can either go off camber up the ledge, or you can go through you can kind of point really crossed over. Yeah,
it's kind of like a small soup bowl.
Yeah,
in a way, and the opposite direction.
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, I guess so. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I can tell you to see that. So yeah, that's the third section, and that's like 1/10 of a mile from the lake. You get it through that, and you're like right there. You pop out in the campground. Yeah, it's a fun trail and big obstacles, but in between them, it's like you can really relax. Whereas like Fordyce, there's no relaxing in between the winch hills. No. Rubicon, there's a little bit of relaxing, but there's still a lot to keep you on edge throughout the trail. Whereas this is literally, it's relaxing in between the obstacles. Fun trail, and I decided that I was going to try and get the 4Runner done for Barrett Lake, for this Barrett Lake trip.
Okay.
Where we last left off, thank you.
Yeah.
Was I still had to install the air system and finish up the air system.
Yeah, you had 2 little fittings you needed to get, which you actually purchased that same night.
Yes. And so when I on the last episode though, I thought they were just 1/8 NPT fittings.
Yeah,
they're not. Oh. So ARB likes to use what's called compression fittings. And I had never heard of compression fittings, messed with them at all.
Okay.
And it's essentially has a different thread and thread pitch than MPT. But the fitting at the end of it is...
I don't know what it is.
It's almost like pushed in a little bit. So it's like a little tapered on the inside of the...
It has like a little wedge that... Does it snap in through something and then... like sort of a fishhook barb hold itself in also, or does it just taper into a wedge and
it kind of tapers into a wedge? So what it's supposed to have is there's supposed to be another sleeve that this goes into with a little pipe in the middle of it, and you push this on. It's supposed to like go onto an air tube in there, and as you screw it in, it's supposed to compress the air tube all together. Okay, so that it holds everything in airtight. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Which is a good fitting.
That's like how my brake lines system
They're very similar to brake lines, except brake lines have a little bit more of a flare to them. Yeah. This one, what ARB uses for their bulkhead fittings, which is essentially the fitting that goes from the outside of your differential to the inside of your differential, is this compression fitting. Okay. And it's a 3/16 compression to a 3/16 brake line. All right. And this adapter. And I had never seen the compression...
brake line?
To a brake line fitting, yes. That's what ARB uses on their stuff. Okay. So I was looking at this fitting. I was like, I know that's a brake line fitting. I don't know what the hell this is.
Sure. And
so I called Jason, our buddy over at Wheeling Wine and Whiskey. I sent him pictures. I was like, what is this fitting? He goes, I don't know. That looks like some stupid British thing. I was like, well, that's not going to help.
It's kind of British in a way.
Kind of, yeah. And so I went to Lowe's and Home Depot. Yeah. Neither of them had compression fittings. And then finally I went to Ace Hardware, and they closed in like 20 minutes. So I was like boogieing over to Ace Hardware because I was like, I've had really good luck. It seems like Ace Hardware has everything you're always looking for hardware and fittings and everything. Okay. So I show up and I hand the adapter to the guy. And I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. Do you guys have these? And he looks at it and he goes, oh yeah, right over here. And I'm just like, oh, thank God. Because it's 7:30 p.m. at this point, right? Okay. Yeah. So if he doesn't have it, I'm not going on Barrett Lake. Right. Because it's, where are you going to find another place with this weird fitting at 8 p.m. at night on a Thursday? So he goes, oh yeah, I think we have it. And so he went over and he found out it's a 3/16 instead of a 1/8. And he goes, okay, cool. Yeah, here's this fitting here. And he goes, all right, so now we got to do this adapter to get it to the brake line fitting. I was like, no. I don't want the brake line fitting. I want it to be like normal NPT is my goal. Right. Have it universally something that I can find this fitting at anywhere. Yeah. End up at if it fails in the future. So I was like, my goal is to convert it over from this compression to an NPT, get rid of the brake line flares on it. And he goes, oh, okay, cool. So he ended up having a compression to MPT, a 3/16 to 1/8, and then we got a adapter for MPT to a barb, so we could stick it in a hose, put a hose clamp on it. Oh, cool. And call it good. Yeah. So I bought these 4 pieces, because one for the front, one for the rear, and went back home and built the whole onboard air system starting at 8 p.m.
Oh, geez.
So I had to redo the whole wiring harness because I was getting rid of ARB's switches. Because ARB likes to wire their switches so that you cannot turn on the front locker unless you have the rear locker engaged. And I'm like, that's stupid. No bueno. I do not like that. And I've never modified it to get rid of that in the past. But I'm like, now that I'm here, let's just modify it. Yeah. And so I started looking over the wiring harness. And again, I called Jason because he's done this a lot to his wiring harnesses over the years. And he goes, oh, no, yeah, it's stupid. And stupid easy to set up your lockers to do that. They're just on an electronic solenoid. So all you need is a ground and a load to go to a switch. And I was like, well, then what is all this wiring mess that ARB has in their wiring harnesses? He goes, it's excess crap that you don't need. I was like, oh, okay. So it was very easy, especially with the new Rough Country switch box.
Yeah.
Super, super easy to set up the lockers and the compressor and everything independent of each other.
Nice.
So
you just ran it from the ARB compressor to your new switch box.
So the ARB compressor has relays in it already for each compressor. The twin ARB has 2 compressors in it. 2 of their single compressors wired together on relays.
Right.
So there's control wires that come out to their harness. And then there's also power wires that come out to go to the battery. So all you did, I had to extend all those to go up and around my firewall over to the battery. So I extended those, and that was interesting finding 8-gauge butt connectors.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
I found some that are actually designed for underground wiring, that are waterproof underground wiring. So
that's cool.
It was a connector, a brass sleeve you slide the wires in, then screw down these screws, and that holds the wires together. And then it has this super watertight heat shrink sleeve with glue in it. As it heats up, the glue starts, and so it makes it all
waterproof. Yep.
So I got some of those. I think it was at Lowe's. Put those on the 8-gauge wiring from the compressor to the battery, and then had to redo the ground wiring, everything too, and then set up the control wires that went to the normal ARB's harness, sent those to the Rough Country switchboard.
Right.
And then the locker solenoids are super easy. You just extend those wires, and I ended up putting my manifold back with my air tank underneath the rear of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I had to run wiring all the way up my frame up to the switch box and plug those in. And I built the whole wiring harness at nighttime, installed the whole air system at nighttime, ran all the lines for the air system, set up the air tank and got that all mounted and everything all at night. And I turned it on and it all worked the first time with no leaks.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh my God, that never happens, especially even during the day.
Yeah.
I was really excited about finishing that. I finished that at midnight.
Oh, dang.
And it wasn't until midnight that I was like, okay, I'm going for sure on the run tomorrow morning. I had to pack still, so I didn't get to bed until 1 or 1:30.
Okay.
And then I had to be up at 4:30 to get the rig and throw my clothes and everything in the rig.
Yeah.
To leave my house by 5 to get to Barrett Lake by 7:30. Okay. Went up and left, and driving on the road, the death wobble wasn't as bad as I had originally thought it out to be.
Okay.
It was very manageable. Heading up to Barrett Lake, very manageable. I loved the sound of the vehicle with the exhaust deleted.
Oh, I bet. I bet it's got a good rumble.
It does. And it gurgles on the back pressure when you're coasting.
Oh, really?
I had a few people comment and be like, did you do a diesel swap in there? I was like, nope.
I don't have an exhaust.
I just don't have exhaust, a muffler. There you go. And so I have my downstream O2 sensor just zip tied to my frame right now.
Yeah.
So I got to make a new straight pipe exhaust tip that dumps it downwards and then put the O2 sensor into there. So
it was funny because you posted a picture of your check engine light on, and I had a listener write and say, would that really cause a check engine light to come on?
Yes.
And I was like, absolutely. Like, your O2 sensors are measuring the amount of lean or rich your vehicle is running. And if it's running one way or another, then it'll throw a check engine light. It's for the same reason if you're running rich for a really long time, you're going to clog your O2 sensor and then you're going to get a check engine light because they want you to change it. And you'll clog your cat. Yeah, exactly. So they're like, I'm going to pull an O2 sensor and check it.
Nice.
I'm like, well, one and drive it around for a while. I bet you your check engine light will come on.
Yep.
Because that's what's happening on Bobcat. Speaking of Bobcat, I got I know it's a slight delay here, but I got my smog check for Bobcat coming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Has it been 2 years already?
Yeah. So I've got to put back in the cat and see if I can clear the engine code.
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably disconnect the battery and drive it around for a little while and make sure that nothing pops back up and then take it back in or take it in to get smogged. But
nice.
Nice.
So,
but we've got to get Bobcat together.
Yeah.
So I can do all this.
Yeah. When is it? How much time do we have?
I think we have most of next month, I think.
Okay.
So
because my goal was to get Bobcat together in the next 2 weeks.
That'd be fine.
Okay, cool. Good. Friday morning, got up super early. I've got 3 hours of sleep, 2.5, whatever it was, 2.5, 3 hours of sleep. And got up to Barrett Lake, stopped at my favorite gas station on the way up there, the Chevron at Fresh Pond.
That's your favorite?
My favorite gas station because it has everything.
It does.
It's got really good breakfast burritos for their price. They're not the best breakfast burritos, but when you're just on your way, you need something to quick and go super early in the morning. They're usually open at 5 a.m. and
they are.
You can get a nice breakfast burrito, some good coffee, so get gas, and then you continue on your way.
Yeah. I think their price is a little high there they know they're slightly remote.
Absolutely.
And they know they're one of the last gas stations.
Absolutely.
For pretty much up to Tahoe and Rubicon and Barrett Lake.
Absolutely.
I think that they do gouge a little bit out of the community for that.
Interesting. I don't think they're really gouging per se, but then again, I try and support all the businesses as close to the trails as possible. So I'm kind of like, I'm okay with spending a bit more to do that. But I haven't actually compared their prices to other prices before. I might end up starting to pay a little more attention. We'll see. So
I say that, and then it's like 10 cents higher, and then you do the math, and it ends up you put you fill your tank up, and you're giving the person like $1.20 more, and it's like, is it really? But
is it really worth it?
Is it really worth arguing about or something like that?
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, why do you need to be so much higher?
Yeah.
When you're 10 miles out of Placerville.
I think it's for the convenience. Being able to not just get gas there, but all the other stuff they have and all the other stuff they do there. But
so they raise their price on gasoline because they have other stuff.
Yeah,
you should stop there for the convenience. You're stopping there for the extra added convenience, and then they jack you on the price of gasoline.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't noticed them being intolerably higher than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
all right.
So I stopped there, got my breakfast burrito, got some coffee. Whoops. I'm going to knock the table over here. And then continued on my way up to Barrett, got there, and I was going in with Samurai James and John, who has the really nice custom-built TJ. I was meeting up with them, and I didn't realize that John was bringing a passenger.
Oh, yeah?
And so we had a celebrity guest on the run with us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Her name is Shannon. She's a huge Toyota person. So she drives Toyota. She has a really nice 83 pickup that's caged. I have a couple pictures on my Instagram. I'll show you later of her truck. But she also has a really nice FJ40 on 60s, Dana 60s that she's working on.
Why didn't she take either of her rigs?
I'm not sure. I think she just wanted to ride along and be a passenger. She didn't want to drive for whatever reason. Plus, she's getting ready to do a huge overhaul in the 40. So, big Toyota person. We hit it off immediately. I've been on runs with her before, but never where we get to sit down and talk. I went through her to the Rubicon, and we got a private tour of the new Rubicon's Trail Foundation's property before they opened it to the public. So that was fun. And she is the one that paints the Rubicon Trail sign at Loon Lake.
Oh.
So she created that sign and painted it and upkeeps it. Every 2 or 3 years, she repaints it.
Oh, nice.
So the sign that everybody parks next to and posts and takes pictures of, she paints it.
Oh, cool.
So super cool person. She's awesome. And she was on the trip with us all weekend. So we're talking with her, having a good time. And we all get aired down, and I'm checking things. And I figured out, well, I didn't really necessarily figure out at this point in time what the death wobble was. Oh. But when I got there, my ram, so the way the hydro ram works is it comes out and attaches via a heim to a bolt that goes into the clamp that's attached to the tie rod, right?
Yes.
So when I got there and I was starting to air down, I was looking over the rig real quick just to make sure everything's good, ready to go for Barrett. And the bolt was on the bottom side of the tie rod.
Oh.
And it had some chunks missing out of the top of it from hitting my leaf spring and U-bolts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, that shouldn't be there.
So it
Why
rotated.
is that there? So it rotated.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's,
Because the bar didn't rotate.
It did.
Oh.
Yeah, the clamp held tight. Because that's the first thing I checked. I was like, well, damn, okay, I got to pull the clamp off, reposition it, retighten it down. And I was like, the clamp didn't loosen.
Oh.
I was like, interesting. So I'm like, why is this? Because it was all still tight and I couldn't tighten it down anymore. So I was like, what's going to start turning it? And the tie rod was turning. And what had happened was it had loosened the jam nuts. And when it loosened the jam nuts, then it allows this tie rod to just go woo all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go more than halfway in either direction because you have the hydraulic ram. But that's wow. Okay.
So I was like, okay, that's weird. So I just kind of chalked it up to, I don't know, we just maybe forgot to torque down the jam nuts or something. And I thought we did.
We did.
I'm pretty sure
we put the plumber's wrench or the pipe wrench on it and cranked them.
That's what I thought too. So I had Samurai James help me to reset it. So we tried to put the rod ends back in opposite directions.
Yeah.
And then get the ram and the clamp positioned where we wanted it. And then I cranked down the jam nuts.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, that should hold. We should be good. And we got that all finished up and started chalking, got introductions out of the way, said hi to Shannon, got to meet everybody. And then we headed up the trail. There are 3 of us in the 3 rigs. So me and the 4Runner, James Samurai, John in the TJ. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, Gatekeeper is going to be awesome because it's going to be able to tell me a few things about the 4Runner.
Yeah.
It's going to be able to tell me the flex of the suspension. If we got the suspension kind of dialed in at least where I want it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be able to tell me if the lockers work.
Yeah.
It's going to be able to tell me if the transfer case and the dual case setup works.
Yep.
The gearing works the way I want it to. And it's going to be able to tell me how the 4Runner is going to do leaning off camber.
Okay. Yeah. True.
So because that was kind of a concern, right? We gained almost 1.5 inches in belly height.
Yeah.
And so I was concerned if it was going to be a little more top heavy leaning than the first gen. We start going through Gatekeeper and I made it through without any problems whatsoever. And it didn't even feel like the 4Runner was leaning.
Oh, wow.
It felt like it was tilting. But I could tell I was off camber for sure.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like the top was getting heavy at all. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this is kind of cool. I gained 1.5 inches of belly clearance, but I'm not as tipsy.
So your suspension was moving for you instead of your body.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect.
So I was like, awesome. That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
So it all worked great. Lockers worked. Everything was awesome. Through Gatekeeper, super easy. Made it very simple. We made it down to the S-turn. And after the S-turn, I got hung up on a bunch of diff rocks.
Okay.
Through there.
At the top.
Through the S-turn, through the middle of it. Apparently there's a diff rock in the middle. I never remember being there before.
Okay.
But I got caught on it a couple times and I was like, what the heck am I getting caught under? I yelled at James, who was behind me, and he goes, you're just on a rock on your diff. I was like, there's no rock here. And I opened up the door and I looked under. I was like, where the hell did that come from?
Front diff or rear?
Rear.
Okay.
And so, I got caught there. I scraped a lot of rocks on my diffs going through. And so I aired down to my normal 3.5 PSI.
Okay.
Which after I kind of got through the S-turn, I kind of got out and started looking at things. So I was like, I'd never hit this many rocks on this trail. So either I'm getting super lazy because the rig is too comfortable and I'm zoning out while I'm wheeling.
Maybe.
Or I'm a little bit lower now on my diffs than before, but it's the same tires.
Because the vehicle weighs more.
The vehicle weighs more. So the gross vehicle weight is almost 1,500 pounds heavier than the first gen.
Well, yes and no, right? I mean, that's what the sticker on the inside
sticker
says.
On the inside of the cab, yeah.
But it was also for the V6 version.
It was for the V6 version, and I gutted pretty much the first gen.
Right.
So
yeah, and there was a lot of things moved back and forth. So it's probably pretty close. for 1,500 pounds over. But
yeah. So I think 3.5. Looking at the front tires, I think 3.5 looked good. The rear tires, they looked pretty squished.
Nice.
So I think I might have to do 4.5 to 5 psi in the rear and 3.5 in the front for future rock crawling.
Yeah, when I was running Barrett this last time when I went up with the Wheeling Wine and Whiskies, Jason, he and I put my tires at one of the lowest that I've ever had, which was a high 6s.
Oh, yeah.
And it was comfy.
Yeah, isn't it nice?
It was really nice.
So nice. So yeah, I have not ridden at 3.5 psi. I think I did at the very end of Slick Rock for the power tank run. But I hadn't really ever done it on a big rocky trail like Barrett Lake, at least in the 3 big sections of Barrett Lake. So I was catching my diff quite a bit more than I had in the past than I ever have.
Right.
And I would have to like go and then, back up and rearrange and get over the rock.
You know what that means, right?
Bigger tires.
Yes.
So here, the whole trip, though, I was like, I'm also going to be looking at this trip to see how much my tires stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of things I'm kind of curious about on this trip. How did the gearing work out? How did the tires work out? Suspension run? Yeah, all those things. So
the suspension ran awesome. I never once lifted a tire the whole trip, which was great. And I at the very last, the third section where we're talking about, it's kind of like a little mini soup bowl, the way it kind of crosses over, and if you just go straight through, you just get really crossed over. Yeah. I went through that and I didn't lift a tire, and I just went straight through it. I didn't take the ledge.
Oh wow!
So I got really crossed over, and all 4 of my tires stayed on the ground.
Oh, nice.
The suspension worked great. The tires, while I was sitting at the Chevron Fresh Pond. Yeah. I had to take the intern up to go to the bathroom up on the side of the hill there, and I turned around and looked back at the 4Runner, and I was looking at it down in the parking lot, and I was like,
wait, the intern went with you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was there the whole weekend with me. So
fun.
Yeah.
Did he run any mics or camera gear or anything along those lines?
Unfortunately, no. He did take a bunch of selfies, though.
Did he?
Yeah, he's a little selfish that way.
That sucks. You were come on, man, take photos of the rig at least.
Yeah, take some photos of the rig. It's kind of hard to take photos of a rig if you don't have opposable thumbs, though.
Yeah, true.
He did the thing where you'd set up a camera and then you put your hand up. And a lot of especially Androids, they'll take the self image, the selfie with them. So, but yeah,
so
he got
fish pond. You climbed the hill.
So I climbed the hill, turn around.
Yep.
And I was looking at the 4Runner and I was like, my tires look tiny on that thing. And so I think I took a picture and I sent it to our texting group, the podcast group. I was like, you know what? I think I need bigger tires. I'm gonna try and stuff these tires during the trip this weekend. And see if I can really stuff them and bind up the drivetrain from stuffing. If I rub a little bit, not a big issue. But if I stuff them so much that that binds the drivetrain, that'll be an issue. I won't be able to go bigger.
Okay.
So
there's only a few spots that really cross up and you can get into that situation besides some of the buggy lines or any of that.
Yeah.
One of them's in sort of a root area. It's kind of hard for me to describe, but I've done it once or twice. I've taken a few selfies of Bobcat in that area.
Yeah,
stuff's up pretty good. And the other one's at that rock that we were the opposite mirror image of soup bowl scenario thing. That one stuffs you up pretty good. So you were saying it didn't stuff that much, or
correct?
Okay,
it barely rubbed at all, if any.
Wow.
And I was purposely trying to find rocks to go up and over that would stuff my tire up into the wheel wells. And I didn't really rub at all.
Okay. So we can lower it.
No. I mean, I don't know how much. I mean, I'd rather have the bigger tires. So, So that's on the to-do list.
Okay.
Especially if it gets 3-linked, when it gets 3-linked. Bigger tires will definitely fit at that point. Yeah, so the tires did great. Just need to run a little bit more pressure in the rear tires on the next trip. What else did we get to do? So on the way, there was another rock kind of section. There's a bypass to it, but the bypass kind of goes around, makes a really sharp right-hand turn to come back to the trail. And there's this really kind of gnarly section next to a room-sized boulder.
Okay.
Granite boulder. And if you go down it, it tips you over into the boulder. So in the first gen, I get tipped over and I hit my quarter panel every single time. Every single time I go through there. It doesn't matter how hard I'm trying to not hit it, how far driver I go.
Yeah.
I always hit my rear quarter panel.
Okay.
And so in the second gen, I was like, this will be the test of how much I lean.
Is this just before the off-camber rock section?
This is...
There's kind of a rock wall that you have to climb up and go down, and you can get kind of twisted up in there.
No.
Okay.
Not really.
I don't know what you're talking about then.
It's a tiny bit, I believe, before the S curve, the S turn. I'd have to look it up on the map. But
yeah. All right, go on. So anyways, how did the second gen do?
I cleared it by about 2 or 3 inches.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it doesn't lean over as much as...
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You think that's just front springs?
I don't know if that's the suspension or the body lift and the body being up taller.
Yeah, and you have new springs in the rear compared to the last time that you did this too.
Yes, I do.
So,
actually.
I mean, because you didn't run Barrett with the new rear leafs last time you ran it.
I have not. Correct.
In the first gen.
Correct.
So it's in a way, it's a whole different suspension.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have those custom Beavers anymore in the rear. That's what I was. I was running on the old worn out custom Beavers last time I ran Barrett.
Were they Devers? Are you sure? I mean, we were talking about they might have been a custom ordered Alcans or something.
I've looked at both of the companies' kind of custom packages, and they look more like Devers than they do Alcans.
Okay. Just curious.
Patterns.
Yeah.
So, I'm not leaning as much, which is nice. Whether that's suspension or whatever it is, it's not leaning as much. So we did something right. The tires are not stuffing, so I can go bigger tires. The
gearing
was awesome.
Okay.
So I'm not as low in first gear or second gear.
Right.
So in second gear is fine because that's what I use. I'm in the 4.7 and second gear to go through most of the trail, right?
Yeah, I was second or third.
Yeah,
most of that trail. I kind of
went back and forth for most of it. What I had to realize though is that when I put it in first gear, in the first gen, the first gear would walk without any idle input, gas input. It would, for the most part, idle itself up through any obstacle, except for like extreme climbs, right?
Sure.
Or getting bound up or crossed over really bad. In the first gear, in the second gen, I had to feather the throttle just the tiniest of bits. And so that I had to get used to. I killed it a couple times going through obstacles because I was just kind of sitting back and letting it do its thing.
That's one of the, like, I remember when we were doing Slick Rock and I was getting up crazy on that like sort of buggy line, and I kept killing it, right? And that's because you do have to feather the throttle to keep it going compared to, climbing or slipping or needing to push in the clutch to, control it. But you do have to finesse it a little bit more.
Yeah. So I was having to finesse it a little bit more in first gear. Once I got the hang of that, I was like, okay, I got it. No problem. But I did kill it a couple times at the beginning of the trail.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, you have to play around with the throttle?
Yeah.
So that was interesting, getting used to that. But the crawl gear worked great, worked just fine. It was plenty low. And I only used it in Gatekeeper just as I was coming through, going into the trail, just to use it and see how it worked. But the 4.7, I liked it a lot. I did way less shifting. I never used the 2.28 except for in Gatekeeper, the front 2.28.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so that's what I realized that's the difference between having dual 2.28s and having a 2.28 and a 4.7.
Right.
Is that when I'm in the 4.7, I shift more, quote unquote, but I'm able to use the clutch and the transmission to shift.
Yes.
So I never have to stop. Whereas with the dual 2.28s, I shifted less, but I had to stop way more to do it.
Sure.
So that's I made that realization as I was driving down the trail. I was like, this is what's going on. This is why it feels like it's so tedious to shift.
This is what JJ was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're in almost a 4.7. You're just having to change between a 2.2 and or the two 2.2s. No, definitely.
So that was fun.
Which, on a side note, I was talking to one of our followers. I can't remember his Instagram handle off the top of my head, but he's a good buddy of mine from high school, and he was talking about.
Buddy, huh? You can't remember his Instagram handle.
handle.
Okay.
Yeah,
I heard name for some reason. Selective hearing comes and goes.
I want to call it. You talked to him too on Facebook and stuff. I want to say it was like Stovetop or Steve.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, thanks. It's not just me.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Jesse.
I want to say thank you, Jesse. I was like, it's James or Jimmy, not James. I was like, anyway, Jesse. It's Jesse.
Is his name, but it's not his Instagram handle.
No.
Him and I were talking about what, like, if he was going to go a single 4.7 or two 2.2s or 2.28s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an advocate for going two 2.28s.
Interesting. Why?
Over a single stock.
A single 4.7.
4.7.
Okay, yes,
because there's times, like, because his rig's not a crawler, and he's more, in essence, more of an overlander. He's really a guy that likes to go fire roads and go fishing, right? Mm-hmm. And there's probably going to be more instances when he doesn't need to engage the second T case, and he's just going to be driving around in the first one.
Absolutely.
And if he goes to the 4.7, then it's just going to be too low.
Option,
you have really extreme low, or you have normal high 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. No, I would argue that case for anybody. If you have the option to do dual 2.28s or a single 4.7, I would go with the dual 2.28s any day. Every day. Sorry.
But I think going to a single or a dual 2.28 and 4.7 would be too low. It's not necessary for him to do.
Yeah. So
there you go, Jesse.
You just have a lot more options with the dual cases. And we'll get into this talk later on when we do our gearing episode.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, people think that Toyotas, because we have dual cases, we always run in our crawl. Some do.
Yeah.
Most do not.
Right.
Most of the time we're in whatever that is. I want to run the gear ratios and figure out what the gear ratios are in the 4.7 and then first, second, third, fourth, fifth gear.
It's on my channel.
Oh, it is?
Because it's my same T case I have and same transmission.
You wrote up what your final gear ratio was in each?
In first. I did.
Oh, okay.
I think I just said my low gear ratio. I think it's like 230 something.
Oh, no, not that. I want to know what gear ratio I'm in when I'm just in the 4.7 and running second gear, because that's what I'm running most of the time on the trail.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to see
and then compare it to how Jeeps run. They're like a Rubicon case.
Sure, but they're all automatic, so they have no idea.
True.
They're in fifth
there's
gear.
Some manuals out there, but
yeah. What I want to know, kind of along those lines, is if I'm in 4.7. If I'm in stock high gear, right? Stock normal transit. My first T case, is in
2.28.
No, is in normal, as in 1-to-1.
Engaged?
Yeah, it's in normal high or whatever. Right, I'm not low in the first one, and then I'm only in 4.7. Right, and I'm in first gear. What is my gear ratio?
Exactly.
And then if I engage the second one, so I lower the 2.28, what? If I'm in third, is that the same as first in the other one? Like, I want to know those numbers.
That's kind of what I want to get into too, and make a big chart.
Yeah,
and figure it all out and be like, okay, which ones are the same
to
this gear? Yeah, exactly. Because I did notice when I put it in the 4.7 with the 2.28 in there and ran in second gear, it was very similar to my first gear, but it behaved more like the first gen did with just the 4.7 in first gear.
Sure.
So it was.
Well, it makes sense because it's almost double. It's just over double the low. So it would be very close.
Exactly. So that started making me think, and then my brain got to moving along the trail while I was going through the trail, and I was like, I want to make a whole chart of what all the final gear ratios are for every single gear.
Right. And then you are, oh, I'm stuck on my rear diff again.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So anyways, nothing big happened on the way in.
Okay.
Everybody made it in just fine. We made it in about 3.5 hours. With,
that's pretty good. How many rigs?
3 rigs.
Okay.
So 3 rigs, and we took a 20-minute stop at the slabs. No, we didn't.
Okay.
Not that trip. I don't remember. I don't think we stopped at all.
And it took you 3.5 hours?
3.5 hours,
so you're just cruising.
We just kind of cruised pretty much in first to second gear the whole time.
Got it. Okay. And then, did the tie rod come loose again?
Oh, that's why we stopped. So we stopped at the slabs. We did stop at the slabs for about maybe 15 minutes because I felt something. Well, I wanted to let the intern out to go to the bathroom because he's so anxious and holding on for dear life when he's in the rig. So I'm like, all right, I need to let him just out, let him relax for a second, go to the bathroom.
Let him run around.
Let him run around.
He's very hyper intern.
He is, and he loves getting and climbing up on rocks, which is pretty funny. So while we were there, I looked at my tie rod. The bolt was down again. And I was like, what the hell? I just tightened all this up, but I know I torqued it down and tightened the jam nuts this time.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting there and I was like, okay, is the clamp moving? No, the clamp is still super solid to the tie rod.
Okay.
But the jam nuts were both undone. I was like, what the hell? And the rod ends were not offset from each other.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I'm kind of looking at him. And so I tighten it down as much as I can with the rod ends, getting the rod end set. And I didn't torque down the jam nuts. I just kind of tightened them. And then I went in the rig and pulled on the steering wheel and told my buddy to watch, Samurai James. And he watched, and immediately within 2 to 3 turns of the steering wheel, the jam nuts loosened back up. Granted, I didn't tighten them down fully, but it was like, even still, they should not be loosening that easily.
Okay.
And what's happening is the ram, as it pushes on, say, here's the clamp, and here's the bolt sticking up from the clamp, right? Here's the ram. As it pushes and rotates the tie rod forwards.
Oh, interesting.
As it pulls in
it's
to turn to the passenger, it's pulling it
backwards. Okay.
And rotating it
because
backwards.
you have the bolt on the clamp for the ram slightly altered up to clear your U-bolts and the spring perch. Yeah.
Exactly. So because of that, it rotates the tie rod. And because the tie rod rotates, it undoes
the jam nuts. Interesting. Okay.
And so once the jam nuts are undone, then the whole thing just goes and flops up and down all the time.
And then it
runs
super
into
loose.
my leaf springs, runs into my U-bolts and everything.
Okay. I have 2 solutions to that.
Okay. What's one of them?
Undo the tie rod completely when out of the rod ends, and flip it 180 degrees so the left-hand thread is on the right side. So when it's pushing, it's not loosening, it's tightening.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think of that.
Second one is add some more jam nuts.
Add jam nuts to the jam nuts? I didn't think of that either. Well, we ended up doing...
Or 3 weld it.
Ta-da!
Is that what you did?
That's what we did.
Yeah.
We ended up welding the jam nuts. And even with the jam nuts welded to the tie rod, it was still able to move about 45 degrees. So what was happening was...
Well, did you then put the rod ends at a counter? Opposite counters? Wow. Yep.
So upon a closer inspection of the whole thing, because it still allowed it to move 45 degrees.
Yeah, they should rotate a little bit still, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to turn.
Yeah, exactly. But what's going on, I think, is that... Remember how I said the holes in my steering arm are a little bit bigger than the bolts for the rod ends?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. And as the steering pulls on it, it pulls the rod end back and forth.
It's moving
wobbling
those
a little bit. And because it wobbles a little bit, it gives a little bit of play, which allows the other rod end to loosen up, and then they get off or back to set with each other instead of being offset.
Yeah.
And then once they're set to each other, the tie rod can turn.
Yeah, and it can rotate almost 90 degrees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So having the jam nuts on there helped limit the rotation of the tie rod, but it didn't kill it altogether. And so when the tie rod was turning driver, the bolt on the clamp would stick straight up.
Yep.
And then run into and bind with my drag link.
Oh, interesting.
So I was like, well, I'm just going to hit my drag link on the rest of the trip out, because we welded it up on Saturday night.
Got it.
Right as the snow started coming down.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
Yes.
Hopefully quick here. I
think we're right about there.
Yeah. So, no, Friday night, though. Friday afternoon, we got into camp at about 12:30.
Okay.
And I'm parking and pulling all my stuff out of the rig.
Where'd you camp?
Right in the middle.
Okay.
Smack dab in the middle.
Was anybody else there?
There was one other rig there when we pulled up.
Okay.
And person...
Did they have the prime spot with the beachfront?
No. We ended up grabbing the prime spot. He was far left at the campsite just before the waterfall campsite.
Oh, okay.
Or
interesting.
After
before the trees.
Exactly.
Okay.
But as I'm setting up my tent and everything, he comes walking over. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's not uncommon. Usually people at Barrett Lake all kind of intermingle and talk and chat. But he comes over and he goes, hey, you made it. And I'm like, I don't recognize this guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, it's really cool. I'm glad to see you made it and you finished the 4Runner. I'm like, okay, who? And I'm like, so I'm trying to rack my brain. I'm like, should I know him?
Yeah.
Should I not know him? And did I meet him somewhere? And now I'm being an asshole for not remembering him.
That's one, by the way, listeners, that is one of the hardest things because you guys know us. You see us, you hear us, and we really don't know you.
Yeah.
And people will come up to us and be like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, I don't know who you are.
So this is, I don't want to say the first time this has happened, but this is the first time that it's happened where I was really thrown off.
Yeah.
Because the other times I've at least known who the people were or known of the other person.
Yeah.
And once we started talking, I was like, oh, that's who he is.
Sure.
So anyways, he comes up, he goes, oh, I'm really glad to see you made it and you got the 4Runner finished and you brought it out here. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. You know, yeah. He goes, here, this is for you. And he hands me a beer.
Yeah. And
I look at it and it's the High Water Brewing Campfire Stout. That you got me that day. I was having a bad day.
Right.
And we had to come over and record. And it was going to be a long, late night recording. And I had it and we started talking about it. I was like, this stout is amazing. And it's my favorite stout now.
Right.
And so I took the beer and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, this is a Campfire Stout. It's my favorite stout. And he goes, I know. And I was like, uh-oh. And then he must have seen my face change something because immediately after that, he goes, I listened to the podcast. And I was like, oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the only place you would have known those three pieces of info.
Right.
So yeah, it turns out he had already had a trip planned to Barrett Lake and was going to be hanging out for a few days. He came up Thursday night and was going to leave Saturday morning. And he decided to bring along a Campfire Stout just in case I made it.
Nice.
At the same time.
That's awesome.
It totally made my day. I was like, this is awesome. This is freaking sweet. So Andy, thank you so much for the beer. He is Sierra Crawler on Instagram.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
Really cool guy.
I saw your Instagram post about it. So yeah.
So really cool guy. That,
you want a beer?
Okay. What do we have? What's our options?
I only have two, I think. Or we can have some wine.
Either way, we've got maybe 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
In the episode.
I have some of Wheeling Wine and Whiskey's wine.
Ooh, some of Jason's wine?
Uh-huh.
Should we do a wine test on the podcast?
We could do that.
The way they would do it. Okay.
All right.
Let's try it.
Okay.
Timeout.
All right. We're back.
Welcome back from the timeout.
Cheers.
We had to get some of, there's some wine. We're going to take a wine break.
Grape juice.
A grape juice break. This is grape juice. So this is a
14 Petite Syrah.
14 Petite Syrah from Jason at Wheeling Wine and Whiskey.
Yeah.
So, do you taste any cinnamon in here?
Oh, are we doing that? I taste an essence of freshly mowed greens.
Okay.
And a little bit of sand from like a putting wedge or a sand trap area.
A sand hole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm tasting a little bit of leather.
Yeah.
Some leathery boundness.
Burnt leathers.
Yeah, burnt
leather books.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Chocolate. Definitely chocolate.
I'm tasting a little bit of a rose bush, that kind of thorny.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah,
woody,
I can see that.
Woody, thorny rose bush. I don't know.
Yeah. And some old cigars.
Some old cigars are in there.
Old shoes. No, it's delicious. Thank you, Jason, for sharing.
So, this has been your wine break, brought to you by Wheeling Wine and Whiskey. Back to our regular scheduled program.
Your free commercial.
And a free commercial. Sponsored by Wheeling Wine and Whiskey. So he brought me the beer.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to hang out with him that much that day, but because I had to finish getting a camp set up, and then I was so tired because I went to bed at 1:30 and got up at 4:30 to get to the trail.
I bet.
So I ended up taking a nap.
Okay.
I napped for 3 hours.
Holy cow.
I woke up at 5, made my dinner, and then hung out by the campfire for a little bit. And by like 8:30, I was still tired. So I called an early night, went back to bed.
Did they ever have, because when we were up there like a month ago, they didn't have fire restrictions.
Nope.
And they still don't out that way.
They did not have any fire restrictions. We all had our campfire permits anyways. So, by the way, get your campfire permits if you're in California.
You can do it for free online.
You can do it for free online. You can save the certificate on your phone. I don't have my phone on me. But you can save it on your phone, so you don't have to like have the paper thing anywhere. And
just keep your phone charged at that point, because if they come by and your phone, you're like, I got it, it's on my phone, and your phone's dead. It's not going to work.
Yeah, not going to work. So I hung out the fire for a couple hours, ate my dinner, and then went to bed. And I think I fell asleep around 9:30.
Okay.
And then I ended up waking up the next morning at 9 a.m.
Holy cow.
So I slept 12 hours Friday night.
Wow.
And then we had our...
How did you sleep?
Oh. So...
How did that go?
So
were you warm? Was it cold?
I was not bad.
Okay.
The intern kept my feet warm.
Nice.
Which was nice. That was part of his job for the weekend.
Sure.
There was a few things I had forgotten to resupply myself with after the theft of everything.
Okay.
One of them was sleeping bags. So I forgot a sleeping bag to Barrett Lake. But I did have... So anytime I go camping, I bring a big comforter in my sleeping bag and an air mattress, right?
Okay.
And then if I don't need the sleeping bag, I won't use it because I don't like feeling tight and closed. I like to spread out.
Claustrophobic.
I'll use the comforter. So I always take the comforter sleeping bag and everything. And as I was packing at 1 a.m. Thursday night, I was like, shit. This is going to suck. Sucky weekend.
Yeah.
So the first night, not terrible.
Yeah.
I put on a long sleeve shirt, short sleeve shirt, a sweater, and my snow jacket.
Yeah.
And then I had on shorts, sweatpants, and my snow pants, and 2 pairs of socks.
You're right.
And then I was in my comforter. My air mattress, though, had a very big leak.
Oh, man.
And would pitter out and be flat within about 30 minutes. So it didn't work out too well. And the flat ground bugged me more than the cold weather did on Friday night.
Wow. Okay.
That was my sleeping arrangements on Friday night.
I got a text message.
Oh, did you?
In our text thread with the podcast. And they said, and it was snow, like it had snowed. And Tyler forgot his sleeping bag. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
At that point in time, I had figured, well, either I'll be okay, or it's going to get so cold that I'm going to sleep in the 4Runner and turn it on every hour, 2 hours.
Right. Have what's it called where they cut off your digits because there's frostbite. There you go.
So once I lose a couple toes, then I'll get in the 4Runner and run the heater in the 4Runner. The nice thing about the second gen is that the heat and the AC works phenomenally. The heat worked a little too well. I had to turn it off and run the AC a little bit on Sunday coming off the trail in the snow. But anyway, and
this whole time the intern's like, it is so hot.
Oh God, I felt bad for him. Yeah, but so I forgot my sleeping bag. I forgot snow gloves.
Okay.
And because originally I saw snow in the forecast, but I thought it can't snow a lot. It's just going to be a little dusting like we got in Tahoe a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So I didn't take snow gloves and I didn't take my Smart Wool socks.
Okay.
So
do you have the super duper thick Smart Wool socks?
Yes.
I have 2 sets of those. They are so nice.
They're amazing. They're super hot if you wear them in anything like under 40-degree weather.
Oh, yeah. I don't wear them all day except to go to bed in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's what you
because they're so hot.
Nice.
But like when I jump in a sleeping bag or something while backpacking or off-roading, throw on those socks. Like they just live in my backpack until nighttime and then I put them on.
Oh, okay. Nice.
It's crazy. They're hot.
They're hot. They're hot socks. So, especially when I'm wearing them.
Yes.
Hello, ladies. So I really, really wish I had snow gloves.
I bet.
Like, really, really wish. Because on Saturday, we waited for our second group to come in. They had 3 or 4 rigs.
So did it snow on Friday night?
No. Friday night was very pleasant. It was a little windy, and I was concerned with the tent because I have a Gazelle.
Yeah.
This is the first trip I've ever used it on.
Okay.
And I was going to give a good review, or my review of it on this episode, but we did it last episode with Greg the Bomb Bakken.
Yep.
So if you have not heard that episode yet and you want to hear my review of the Gazelle tent, go back, listen to episode 30. So it might be on a separate episode. I don't remember. I don't know if we had split those or not.
Yeah.
At this point in time of recording, we have not made our decision on whether or not we're going to split that episode into 2. So it's either going to be on episode 30 or 30.5. 30.5 maybe. It'll be a bonus episode. We'll see. So yeah.
30 also.
30 also. That's a good one. It's going to be 30 also. So yeah, the Gazelle tent, it's a big cube, and the Rainfly looks like those little the little umbrella hats that people can wear.
Yeah.
And so I was really concerned with it catching wind because it's not aerodynamic at all.
Sure.
And so I had to stake it down, and it was breezy Friday night. So, and I knew the storm was coming in. We were supposed to have thunderstorms starting Saturday evening.
Okay.
Anyway, so I woke up Saturday morning, 9 a.m., made my breakfast, got up, had coffee, and we kind of hung around camp and waited for the second group to come in. And so they made it in just fine, and I had gotten a little bored, and I know that the intern was getting restless, and he wanted to go on a hike.
Okay.
So right around when the other group was getting close to camp, I went up for a hike up the hill to go visit a couple lakes.
Okay.
And once I got up on top of the ridge, it was blowing. The wind was going good.
Oh, wow.
It was 30, 40 mile an hour.
Oh, wow.
We only stood up there, waited to hang out up there for a little bit, came back down, and I decided we're going to go walk down the trail until we find the group.
Sure.
And so we finally found the group just before the last rock section with the little mini soup bowl.
Okay.
We're calling it mini reverse soup bowl. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, we found the little last section. And
so they weren't far off.
They weren't far off.
A tenth of a mile out.
Yep. Said hi to everybody. They said hi to the intern. Went back to camp and enjoyed everybody hanging out. And then once we got back to camp, Andy, Mr. Sierra Crawler, Mr. Campfire Stout, my savior, was sitting there kind of with his truck waiting to come out because I told him that our other group was coming in. He goes, okay, I'll just wait until they're here before I head out. And so when I came back from the hike, I hung out, and that's when I chatted with him for about an hour.
Oh, cool.
While I was chatting with him...
Did he just do a solo run?
Yeah.
Wow. So
he's got a pretty nice built early 90s, a third-gen pickup.
Okay.
With a long bed, it looked like. Not bobbed.
Right.
But it was a lighter blue color.
Okay.
Lighter blue color, not quite the gray that Bobcat is.
Was it like Samantha?
Yeah. Very similar to Samantha's color.
Okay.
But he still had the stripes on the side.
Right.
And so, nicely built rig. He's a Toyota tech. He's a technician for Toyota for 30 years, the past 30 years.
Wow.
And he's been a diagnostic technician for 20 of those years.
Holy cow.
So
you had a few things to talk about.
Oh, he had a lot of corrections for us. He goes, He goes, like that episode you guys were talking about, what year they started putting coil springs on the front of Toyota SUVs. What generation vehicle started coming with springs instead of leaf springs, or coils instead of leaf springs? He goes,
hold on.
FJ,
FJ 40s?
Nope.
The FJ 60s?
Nope.
62?
Nope.
Well, no, it's before that. 55?
Nope. Where they had coils instead of leaf springs.
I don't know. Well, a coil, I know they came on the second. No, they came on the third gen 4Runners.
Uh-huh.
They came on the Tacoma, first gen
we're
Tacoma.
We're talking about in the front.
Right.
Okay.
First gen Tacoma.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And those were right around the year 96, 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
uh-huh.
I have no idea about the Land Cruiser or the Sequoia or if any other ones were going on.
So I don't think the Sequoias came around until like 2000 or something.
Or how about the T100?
The T100, that's another good guess.
Yeah. But I don't know. Those are the only two that I know. Those are the dates I know about the coils on those trucks.
The coils first showed up on the FJ80s.
Really?
The Land Cruiser FJ80s, yep.
And what year?
That was 92, 91,
Okay.
92, 93, somewhere in that area there.
Okay.
Everything else up until that point had either torsion bars or leaf springs in the front. So, he goes, when you guys were talking about that, I was sitting there yelling at the speakers, no, the FJ60s don't have coils. So anyways, he was fun to talk to.
I bet.
And then
I thought you didn't talk to him about the first gen overheating problems?
I asked him a little bit, and he goes, yeah, that's a weird thing. There's a couple things could be going on. And he kind of named off a couple of things. And then he messaged me later on Instagram after I guess he got home. And he said that he thinks it's my EGR. My EGR not behaving correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to go check that out now.
Yeah.
But he lives in San Jose. Otherwise, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to come bring the first gen to you.
Yeah.
And have you check it out. So anyways, while I was talking to him, another guy came up and he goes, hey, you're Tyler, right? And I was like, yes. What can I? Yeah, what's up? He goes, hi, my name's Steve. And he goes, I follow you on the podcast. And I was like, oh, cool. And he goes, yeah, I'm really like the ham radio stuff that you guys do on there. And I was like, oh, awesome. That's cool. He goes, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt here, but I have a really quick ham radio question. I just laughed. I was like, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Not with me.
No.
So we ended up talking about ham radio for like the next 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we said bye to Andy and said bye to Steve. And
cool.
So that was really cool.
Steve was headed out too?
No, he was he was staying there for the rest of the weekend.
Okay. Was he part of the group?
He was not part of the group I was with.
He was with another group. So on Saturday night, how many other campsites or rigs were there? How many were in your group? And then what else was there?
Saturday night, there was the far left campsite had somebody in it.
Okay.
The next one, which is kind of the big group one, had 5 rigs in it. And then our group kind of took over the middle area and the beachfront and the far right. And then there was another group parked out on the granite slabs far right.
Wow.
So all in all, there was maybe 17 to 20 rigs.
Dang.
At the Barrett Lake area Saturday night. And so we're all sitting there kind of waiting for this thunderstorm to roll in.
Yeah.
It said it was supposed to show up around 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock rolls around, not there. 2 o'clock rolls around, not there. 3 o'clock rolls around, not there. 4 o'clock rolls around, not there. We're all kind of thinking, oh, maybe it's not going to hit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, about right as dusk starts, we start getting some snow coming down. And we all just get super excited. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Barrett Lake in the snow. This never happens because they always shut the trail down before snow ever even thinks about coming down.
Right.
So this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity to be at Barrett Lake in the snow off-roading.
Sure.
So the first little flurry kind of finishes, and it's just a little dusting of snow, and we're like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is really cool. Everything's gorgeous. Has a little dusting of snow. The lake looked amazing. It had steam coming off the lake with the granite hills in the background, the snow covering it.
Yeah.
Just enough you could see the features of the granite. So we're all kind of like, oh, this is awesome. Then we go make our dinner, and we're thinking that's it. That's all we were going to get. And so we're sitting around the campfire having a good time.
Can I pause you for a quick second?
No.
So on Saturday morning about 10 o'clock, it dumped here. Like,
interesting.
For a solid 10 minutes, just super gnarly rain.
Okay.
And then we didn't get any more rain.
Really?
It was like, started at around 10, went for 10 minutes, stopped, and then the rest of the day was clear.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was just this one cloud that was headed your way, I think.
Wow, I guess so. But no, so that's not it.
No.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So throughout the trip, people were getting in touch with me on the ham radio. Mm-hmm. There was another listener. His name's CJ. He's actually friends with Chris and Jason. Okay. He's in their club.
I've met him.
Oh, you have?
I think he was on the Barrett Lake trip with Jason.
Probably. He's the one that does all their drone photography with the club and does all their mapping stuff.
Yeah, he has a CJ.
Yes, exactly. CJ with the CJ. That's him.
That's his license plate?
Yeah. I don't know. He wasn't on the trip, but he was on the Rubicon.
Okay.
As I was going into Barrett Lake. And he was at
He just posted a photo of him going through the Rubicon too. Yeah. Okay.
So, he ended up calling out for me on the radio on the 805 repeater.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we talked for a little bit over the repeater. So it was cool to kind of meet him. I mean, I've met him before, but to talk to him from two different off-roading trails was kind of cool. But other people had gotten in contact with me throughout the weekend. While we were around the campfire, we hear another person call for me on the ham radio. And so somebody hands the handheld over to me. I'm like, hey, Bob, it's my father-in-law, my future father-in-law.
Yeah.
So he got in contact with me. He goes, hey, I just wanted to check and see how things are going up there. And, how are you guys good? Did you get snowed on? Is it storming? What's going on? I was like, yeah, it snowed a little bit, just a little dusting, but it's great now. It's calm. There's no wind going. There's no storm. We're just kind of hanging out around the campfire, having a good time. And he goes, okay, cool. It is dumping here in Placerville right now, dumping crazy. And the storm's heading in your direction. So you might want to look at bunkering down soon here. And I was like, okay, we'll check it out. I guess we'll wait and see if anything shows up. He goes, okay, be safe. I was like, okay, thanks. Literally not 2 minutes after I stopped talking to him, we hung up the radio. He goes, he
cleared.
After we cleared out the radio, exactly.
That's the proper term.
A blizzard hit us.
Yeah.
Like a full-on blizzard hit us.
Okay.
And it continued for a while, a long time. It was probably 9 o'clock at that time when it hit us. And I finally went to bed around 11:30 and it was still blizzarding.
Holy cow.
We ended up getting in the morning about 4 to 6 inches of snow total on everything. Our buddy's tent collapsed 2-3 times throughout the night. So
oh man,
one time he went to bed early that night. And so we're all kind of sitting around the campfire. We heard this behind us. And we turn around and half the front side of his tent had collapsed in. And he's usually always got guns with him.
Yeah.
And so we're like, hey, John, wake up. John. He finally goes, yeah. We're all, hey, we're going to shake your tent to get the snow off. Don't shoot us. He goes, okay. So he shook his tent off. And it popped back up, And apparently he had to do that 2 to 3 more times throughout the night. He had to get up and shake his tent off. So everybody else's tent looked okay. There was one other person that said they had to get up a couple times to shake their tent off.
How'd the Gazelle do?
The Gazelle did great. It withstood it the whole thing. It was very sturdy. I kind of pushed on the top in the morning to see with the weight of the snow if I could get it, if it was on the verge of collapsing or something. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. It was very sturdy. So I was very impressed with the sturdiness and the thickness of the walls and how well it held up throughout everything.
Uh-huh. And how did you sleep that night?
Oh, that night I slept great. So here's the difference. Here's the kicker. Like I said, people were calling me throughout the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And I talked to Jason. He was in San Jose, and I was at Barrett Lake at the trail. And I told him, I was like, I forgot a sleeping bag. And he's making fun of me for it, calling me a yotard and all this stuff. So somebody else from the club heard about it Friday afternoon. That was coming in Saturday morning.
Okay.
So they brought me 2 sleeping bags. And one of them was too small for me. So I used it as a pad.
Okay.
I laid it down underneath my bedding. So I had a little bit of cushioning. It still wasn't enough for the ground.
Yeah.
But I had a sleeping bag to crawl into, and it was toasty warm that night.
Nice.
So Saturday night was much better than Friday night.
Yeah. Well, and was it clear Friday night?
Not really. It was pretty overcast.
Was it?
It was cloudy.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't
usually
get the sunset on the hill.
Oddly, I find it warmer, like when it's snowing and there's the cloud covers, than a clear, like open night.
Huh. I haven't
because I think it's like it's still cold. It'll still it could be freezing.
Yeah.
Like if it's 32 degrees, let's just say if it's a flat 32, 0 for all you sea people out there, right?
All you weirdos.
And it's clear. I feel it's colder than if it's 32 and cloudy. I don't know why it is.
That's an interesting perception. I haven't noticed that before.
Well, it's not any. I mean, it's the same temperature. It's not anything. But I just feel I perceive it as colder because it's clear.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did feel that the tent was a good 5 to 10 degrees warmer inside than it was outside.
Makes sense.
One thing. So I love everything about the 4Runner. Right.
Okay.
The gearing is awesome. The locker's working great. Suspension's working great. I love having 4 doors. It's super comfy to ride in.
Okay. Apparently,
having 4 doors means you have to remember to close them all before you go to bed. So, one of my back doors did not get closed.
Oh, during the snowstorm?
Correct.
Oh.
So I had a good 6 inches of snow or so inside the 4Runner.
Dang.
In the morning when I woke up. So I had to sweep and kind of clear all that out and get it out. My windows were all frozen closed.
Learning curve.
My windows were all frozen closed, so I couldn't put down my tailgate to cook my breakfast and my coffee.
That's something I've never thought about. Because I don't have that. I don't have to concern myself that way.
Yeah,
but
you don't have a back window to roll down.
No, or a tailgate to open because I need, or to lower the rear window to open the tailgate.
Yeah.
But so should you crack it? I mean, what do you need to do in that situation?
The rubber sealant at the bottom had frozen to the window. So what I had to do was I didn't have any way to warm up hot water. I guess look at the engine. What I ended up doing was I ran the engine and the heater inside the rig, and I have a defrost on the rear window. So I ran all that for about half an hour.
Okay.
And got it to move a little bit where it at least went like it was trying to come down. And then I took a pocket knife. I have this tiny little flimsy, do nothing pocket knife on my keys. So I took that and stuck it down in the rubber seal to break the frozenness. And after that, it rolled right down. But yeah, I was panicking for a little bit there because I was like, I need coffee in the morning.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So we got everything. We ended up packing up and heading out Sunday morning. We weren't on any time crunch because we're all like, if we can let as much of the snow melt off throughout the day as we can, that'd be great. But there were also 4 groups that were also leaving Sunday.
Right.
So we didn't want to be the last group or get stuck behind a slow group kind of thing. So usually when we go to Barrett, we leave like 7 a.m. on the dot.
Yeah.
So we're out of there before there are any issues on the trail. This time, we were the last group.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wasn't the very last person to leave Barrett Lake. I was the last person in our group. And when I left, I was at the end of 4 groups. And there was 1 rig that stayed in camp at Barrett Lake.
Okay.
So I don't know if they came out Sunday later in the day, if they were staying longer. But I was like, dang it. I could have been the last person off of the trail for the season at Barrett Lake. That would be awesome. We packed up and everything was super snowy. So everybody just threw all their stuff in their rigs wet and cold. And that's why my tent is sitting at home in my garage drying out. And we just kind of went out and didn't have any issues on the way out. It was great. One of the groups in front of us had a couple of issues, and the whole thing was moving very slowly.
Sure.
So me and the second to last guy in our group ended up inventing a new game. It's called 4-wheeling snow fights.
Okay.
So what the rules are to this game is you cannot get out of your rig or leave your rig. And you have to be able to find snow that you can reach from your window or from your rig from staying in your seat, and make a snowball and try and get it in the other person's vehicle without ever leaving your seat.
It seems like it would be easier if you were the person behind you.
Yes, it's a lot easier.
Throwing backwards is hard.
It is very difficult, especially when the person in back has a fully enclosed 4Runner.
Yeah.
And the person in front has a no top, fully open TJ.
You're right. Yes.
I ended up getting 4 or 5 snowballs right in the back of the TJ. I think I got one to hit the windshield, the inside of the windshield, and I think I pegged the passenger in the back of the head once.
Sorry, Frank.
Sorry, Stephanie. Oh, speaking of Stephanie, so she was the passenger. I'm pretty sure I got in the back of the head. She's the one that sits at the Loon Lake kiosk.
Oh.
And kind of passes out oil spill kits and everything at the kiosk and maps and everything. Mm-hmm. She said that because of the podcast, people are rolling into the Rubicon going, "Hi, Stephanie." She's like, "Hi." Well, we listened to the podcasts and we knew that you're going to be down here. So you're Stephanie, right? She goes, "Yeah." They're okay. Hi. Just wanted to say hi. She's like, okay.
Wheeling Wine and Whiskey did a whole big shout out to her too. Yeah.
I know we've mentioned her a couple of times. And they did a big shout out to her. So yeah, it's funny how the off-roading community is following the podcast and listening to the information we have. So, but anyways, we made it off the trail about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And so it took us about 5.5 hours to get off the trail. So it was very slow going.
What was happening with the rigs in the front? You said there was like 2 problems.
There was an XJ that was open. Granted, he was a really good driver. He didn't have nearly as many issues as he should have had for being open in the snow.
Yeah.
And then another issue was somebody blew a bead that took them 10-15 minutes to reseat and get him all aired up and back on his way. So nothing terribly big.
Yeah.
But it was just slow.
Sure. You asked me to remind you about a Trail4R shirt.
Oh. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So, we did the twin sticks on your case, right?
Okay.
So that I could keep the twin sticks in the rig. Mm-hmm. And we tore out the booty, the twin stick boots, because there was like 3 of them and they were torn up.
There was 2 and a handkerchief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we tore all those out. So I just have an open hole in the bottom of my floorboard where the twin sticks come up from the transfer case.
Sure.
And as I was driving
down the road
to go down to Barrett Lake, I was like, God, this is loud.
It's loud and either cold or hot air comes up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I happened to have a Trail4R shirt. Sorry, Brennan. And with me. And so I grabbed it. It had shrunk in the wash. So I wasn't going to wear it again.
Okay.
Unless I wanted to look like I belonged at Venice Beach.
It was
a
schmedium.
It was a schmedium, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I took it and I shoved it down in the twin stick hole.
Yeah.
And it works amazing as a sound dampener and a heat dampener coming up from the engine tunnel.
Right. Yeah. Bobcat's, the third shifter or whatever, is literally just a hole.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
No boot, no nothing. And it was funny because I went to Hellhole with my assistant.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a little like tiny like washcloth rag that I usually shove down there. And then about halfway up towards, like, we went up through Georgetown up Wentworth Springs 193 route. And about halfway up there, I was like, where's the rag? I must have fallen down. I don't know where it went. It's like somewhere back on the highway. Somebody's like, it's covering my window, you know, or whatever. But yeah, and then and all this hot air was blasting up. Yeah, true.
Yep. So, T-shirts work great to plug holes in your floorboards.
Yeah. And we should add a boot to that.
Yes. Well, even with a boot, I'm still going to put a T-shirt or some kind of cloth. I think that's probably why the handkerchief was in there. It's a great sound dampener. I was impressed with how much it killed the sound of the exhaust.
Oh, yeah?
So that's the other thing I need to do. I need to add a tip, a down port.
Are you going to add a muffler at all?
No. I'm going to keep it straight piped.
Really?
Yep. I like the way it sounds straight piped. It runs great. I don't notice a difference other than it's a little louder. Mm-hmm. And with that hole plugged, it's really not that bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you going to just like pretty much bend it down right after the cat, or are you going to run a straight pipe past your axle and then down.
I'm going to run it. I'm going to dump it right after the cat, but it's not going to be like cat dump.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little straight pipe because I put the O2 sensor back in.
Sure.
So it'll be like a
6 inches, 8 inches.
Straight pipe and then a down, a dump out.
Turn
right
down.
there.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So
what do you think needs to get fixed or upgraded or tweaked on the 4Runner?
The steering.
The steering,
that tie rod rotation has to get fixed really before I drive it again.
Mm-hmm.
When I got off the trail, it was death wobble from 5 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And what had also happened was the castle nuts on the bottom, they hadn't really loosened, but it like I could turn them up until they hit the cotter pin.
Right.
And there was zero resistance on it. So what I did was I took the cotter pins out and just tightened those castle nuts all the way until the rod end bolt just turned by its own.
Right.
So those are going to be a pain in the ass to get back off.
Yeah.
But once I did that, it tightened everything up again. And I didn't have really any death wobble, even from 40 to 45 miles an hour like I was getting before.
So new arms?
Either new arms or find a rod end that fills the bolt hole on the arms properly. And then just get those instead of FJ80 rod ends. Or go back to Heims. Because you can control the bolt size on the Heims. So
what about 6-shooters?
That would be an option. I just don't know if I want to spend $600-$700 for what they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be if hey, Trail Gear, if you want to donate some 6-shooters, let me know.
We're always open for the sponsorship.
Yeah. So if I get some donated, I'll run 6-shooters, but I don't think I want to pay for 6-shooters.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
You don't have a set in the shop.
I know you do. And
knuckles and all.
Those might end up getting replaced by some other knuckles with and see how long it takes you to notice. No.
Those are for Samantha. But.
Yeah. But if we do a 14 bolt and Sterling on Samantha, 6-shooters are not going to fit.
True.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'm leaning more towards the Heim option. And just going and visiting our buddies at Rough Stuff and getting my normal Heim setup that I used to have on the 4Runner, going that route.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I do want to play around with rotating the tie rod because I didn't even think of that. And
after I said that, I thought, well, what's like when it spins backwards, it might loosen it back up. So I don't know. Maybe a double jam nut and spinning it the opposite way, so it kind of untwists itself or something. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to take the rod ends with you because one's a left-hand thread, one's a right-hand thread.
No matter what we do, like I was taking a closer look at rod end. I think it's the weirdest design. Like, how are they supposed to work if you cannot torque down that castle nut?
Well, I think the hole in your arms are so big and not tapered.
Are they normally supposed to, is that what holds them in? Is that they're normally tapered?
They're normally set to a position in the arms that it drops down so far.
Okay.
And then it doesn't go down any farther.
Okay.
And yours are a straight through bolt. And so if anything, we're going down a little ways, but then we're tightening it and it's pulling it down farther and opening that hole up just slightly and kind of pressing itself in.
Yeah. Interesting. See, I didn't realize they were tapered.
And so, if anything, you're only touching on that top ring.
Yeah. Which I think is the big issue.
A part of the issue,
So we need to either find rod ends that fit my arms or go to Heims or get new arms. I think those are our 3 options. But that's got to get fixed.
I wonder, because you have a 5th bolt.
I do.
I have a 5th
bolt to my arms, yeah.
And so I wonder how that works. Like, can we just get like Marlin's beefy arms and then weld on that tab for the 5th bolt again? Or we need to look at that.
Probably. I would guess so. It almost looks like Marlin's arms with that 5th bolt added on.
Okay.
Either that or they're completely custom arms made out of inch-thick steel kind of thing. So, which would not surprise me because my Pitman arm is completely custom on the 1st gen.
Right. There was a lot of custom work done on that. Yeah.
So, so that's the second gen, the shakedown run, how it behaved, how it worked, the story of the trip and getting snowed without a sleeping bag. Now, I did have a sleeping bag when it finally snowed, but yeah.
Nice.
It was fun. I love the 4Runner. I love it's the body and cabin interior is everything I want in a rig and a crawler. I don't think I would want anything more out of it. And now the drivetrain is exactly dialed in what I want. The suspension, for the most part, I could live with it for probably a long time and be happy with it. But I'm still really interested to see what the 3-link would be like because I know it'll let me run bigger tires, no problem. And then the only issue right now is the steering. Other than the steering issue, it's working awesome. I think we did a really good job being rushed in 7 days to get that thing done,
right,
and make it trail worthy to not only do Barrett Lake but do it in the snow.
Sure.
So
yeah. And so the weld on though is it holding the weld on jam nuts?
I mean, they're holding, but they're still allowing the tie rod to move about 45 degrees.
Well, it's always going to move.
Oh.
I mean, it's got to move because when you do your steering, it's got to turn and twist. And if it goes at different articulations, even the Heims will move.
Yeah, I don't remember the Heims moving in any, which enough to cause binding issues, though.
Well, the binding issue is coming from the bolt and the clamp
hitting the drag
turning up. So, you need to turn it down more
and let it hit my leaf spring U-bolts.
Well, you need to find the balance in there and figure out how to, because it's going up, it's flinging itself up when you're turning driver.
Yep.
And so and then it's turning itself down when you are turning passenger.
Yep.
So you just need to make sure that it's clearing your U-bolt, your U-bolts and spring perch while it's on the upswing.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be passenger when it's all the way, when that part of your steering is all the way at the driver's side.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as you start turning passenger, it's going to start pulling away from the U-bolt and it can go down.
Then it can go down.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we just keep the jam nuts welded. I mean, we'll have to grind them to unweld them and then re-weld them once it's in place.
Yeah, I would say we should try.
No, we still need to find the correct rod ends or arms because the having the rod end bolt moving in the armhole, is not conducive for straight driving.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that is more if you find the right arms, that will probably solve the jam nut problem.
I think so too. I think the rod ends are moving because that bolt does not fit the arms properly. And because that movement, it's allowing rotational play and a stretch and a give to the jam nuts, which loosens them up.
Yep.
Good times.
Sounds like
engineering.
A great trip.
Woo!
Sounds like a great trip.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. That literally is like the top highlight trip of my life so far right now. From meeting the 2 listeners at the lake to getting the campfire stout to talking to people on the ham radio the whole weekend long to getting snowed in. Getting snowed on at Barrett Lake. Yeah. We almost got snowed in. We kept making jokes about being the Donner Party next.
Yeah.
And just seeing Barrett Lake in the snowy landscape, that was really freaking cool.
That's
so if you missed all the pictures on my Instagram, go back and check out my Instagram feed from when I got back from the trip and probably the next week and a half after. I posted a bunch of pictures from the trip. So it's a really cool scenery and awesome pictures. So.
Right. Yeah. And if you haven't done so, go back and listen to episode 30 or 30 also. And 30, check out, say hi to Greg and tell him that you heard him on the SnailTrail4x4 podcast and tell him how much fun it was to hear him in your ear holes.
Yep. Blow up his Instagram, blow up his Facebook, blow up our Instagrams. Don't blow up our Facebook because we don't really pay attention to Facebook too much. And then, but you can email us. So at Jimmy, SnailTrail4x4.com. Tyler at SnailTrail4x4.com. And then, of course, I'm on Instagram, 4x4 Twitter, Tyler. SnailTrail4x4 is Jimmy and everything that we do out in the shop and work on stuff. And then we've got the YouTube side of things, of course. We have the Patreon giveaway, which is the Tailgater Tire Table this month. We have the gift box tier is back open again. So definitely check that out if you're looking for a gift box for next time.
Yep.
And we have, of course, new videos coming out on YouTube all the time. And it's a good time. We're just doing nothing but creating content and creating fun stuff for you guys. So
definitely
check it out. Share us with all your friends, all your buddies. Talk about us on the trail. If you see us on the trail, bring beer.
And we will probably give you stickers.
And we'll probably... Oh, I failed in that department. And he mentioned it too.
You didn't have one?
I didn't have the stickers.
Oh my God.
It's a new rig. I also didn't have my soft
What was his
shackles.
name? Andy?
Andy.
Andy, send us an IG message and we'll send you out a sticker.
He has one. He has one on the back of his rig. But,
okay.
We'll get you some more. So that's about does it. We did have one person give us a shout out on Instagram for the birthday card.
Yeah.
So
that was pretty cool.
If you go on to SnailTrail4x4.com, there's a pop-up that pops up. Fill it in with your email and date of birth. We will send you a birthday card during your birth month. So
you'll get and it's for the sticker.
And a sticker too. You get a sticker too for it.
Instantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we had one person.
Maybe I should clarify. Not exactly instantly, but you'll receive a sticker in a few weeks. Within a few weeks. Yeah. Sign up. Boom. Sticker. Guess what? You got a tattoo.
So yeah, we had one person tag us in his story. He opened up his birthday card. So get a birthday card from us, get some stickers. And other than that, any final words, Mr. Jet?
No, I'm happy to hear that the rig is wheeling well.
It's wheeling very well. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.